could have a look at the Mental Capacity Act. I thought we could kind of tiptoe into that. It's in your hands as practitioners. The Act is in your hands. The government at the time, of the creation of the Mental Capacity Act, at the time of it moving on to the statute book, were quite clear that they weren't going to tell us how to do it. I mean, yes, there's guidance and the like, but the point they were trying to make was that you're the person in front of the individual, and you, as the professional, have to do right by them. And it's complex, isn't it? You'll know from looking at case law that even the judiciary, the high and mighty judiciary, have problems trying to interpret or think about the complexity, and sometimes the problems of practice. But practice is where we're at. This is very much, I feel anyway, an act of practice, not an act of legalese, to use a word that was bandied around at the time. Scott et al., 2020, talked about travelling the grey line. They did a thematic synthesis of research around practitioner experiences, which I think is always a good place to start, isn't it? How are the practitioners going about doing their work? How comfortable do they feel within the framework? And they discovered some interesting themes that help us start to get at some of the problems of discharging our professional responsibilities in relation to the Act. Firstly, practitioners point to the subjective nature of capacity work. They found that in 5 of the papers they reviewed, practitioners interviewed spoke about how the Mental Capacity Act could be just open to multiple layers of interpretation. Just where's the line regarding when someone has capacity or not? Is there even a line? Should there even be a line? What constitutes enough when we're supporting someone to make a decision? How clear does the decision reached need to be? Who says what's unwise? And the range of potential answers to these questions are vast and increase the struggle to maintain objectivity. We have views on these things as individuals, as professionals, and views are passed down to us by our managers or our, mental capacity act leads and those kind of things. So prior to undertaking an assessment of capacity, it has certainly been possible to encounter strong opinions from people, including from yourself, that internal kind of dialogue from other professionals and family members about what the conclusion should be. I'm sure as practitioners you've been in that position. So the pressure exerted on your critical and logical thinking at times can threaten your ability to remain objective. My conversations, particularly with people in their initial assessed and supported year in employment, lead me to kind of agree with the researchers that this creates a pressure and an anxiety when you may find yourself disagreeing with other people who are prominent within that person's life. Some practitioners identify the very real risk of falling into one of the many kind of bias traps due to pre-existing relationships with the people involved, be that the service user themselves or the family, or their individual biases and their personal values and beliefs could impact on their approach and therefore the outcome of any elements of the Mental Capacity Act. Practitioners, though, love the empowering nature of the Act, and they comment on the direction it can give their practice in terms of upholding a person's human rights. The Act requires you to place the individual front and centre and put their values in clear view, even when you're making the decision in question as part of a best interest approach. Even when you're going to make the decision, their values still need to remain front and centre. They found that practitioners described how the Mental Capacity Act had intensified their focus on the individual's human rights and allowed them to enhance their practice through embedding the principles into their daily practice. Maybe not even just their Mental Capacity Act type practice, but their daily practice. They found there was a strong focus that the Act gave to them, balancing the right to autonomy and the right to be protected from harm. This focus is likely to promote equality and inclusivity. Some reported that they developed this focus by tailoring their mental capacity assessments to capture the individual at their best, and by magnifying their decision-making capacity, putting a spotlight on it, I suppose, is what they're saying there. And practitioners identified good practice areas that help them to do this. Some provided extra time, delaying an assessment to a time when an individual might be able to better engage. And that's absolutely crucial, isn't it? We should be on the person's clock, not our clock. Why should they make a decision in our time frame? I mean, you could make an argument, why should they make a decision in the time frame of the law, I suppose. The guidance is there to protect things drifting. I get that. But this is a person's decision. We all make decisions in very, very different ways. We can sometimes make decisions impulsively. We can sometimes say, I'm not ready to make that decision yet. And all of those things need to be appropriate, So when it comes to being confident with applying the Act, practitioners reported various confidence levels. A lack of confidence, the researchers found, prevented practitioners from challenging decisions they didn't agree with. So there's something about becoming comfortable with the Act. I'm not sure how you do that other than through kind of time served, if you like, through doing lots of assessments or exploring the Act in your own practice, so you become confident with it. But certainly in the early stages of careers, practitioners say they're finding it difficult to challenge the decisions of others. There seemed to be a link between knowledge and confidence. In some ways, obviously, as people's knowledge grew, their expertise through practice increased. So did their confidence. This is how it is with many things, is it not? And this is one of the perennial problems of practice. You get better at doing it by doing it. You go more confident. One of the phrases I like to use is you become more confident by being forged in the flame of practice. And I've noticed in many of the early parts of careers, the tensions that brings people can be problematic. The uncertainty of kind of, am I doing the right thing? I routinely argue that if you root yourself in why, the why of practice, your values, the reason you came into the profession, then you're not stray far from the path. It's when you root yourself in process that you take your eye off the essentials of dignity, respect, autonomy, and the centrality of the person. The process begins to dominate, doesn't it? And this can cause a crisis in the practitioner, a schism, if you like, if it goes unchecked, between what they know to be right and how they begin to practice. And in some ways, that can be where stress in practice comes from, where there's a misalignment between values and the necessities. Sometimes it's not a criticism, the necessities of practice. What the researchers found in terms of enhancing people's knowledge was the places they did best were where they had a supportive framework, a supportive management structure, supportive teams, and accessible literature, as well as doing joint working with other maybe more experienced social workers on the team, building up their confidence levels and inevitably building up the quality of their practice.